In the heart of the Welsh countryside, where the wind whispers secrets to the ancient hills and valleys, there lies a house that knows no neighbor's gaze. It stands alone, a silent sentinel among the sprawling greens and rugged landscapes that define this secluded part of the world. It is here, in this isolation, that our story begins, not with a whisper, but with a heart-wrenching cry of grief that belongs to one woman. Sophia. Sophia's life, once filled with the mundane concerns of the everyday, had been irrevocably altered by a loss so profound that it tore through her existence like a winter gale through barren branches. She had loved deeply, and now, that love was gone, leaving behind a void no words could fill. Her days blended into one another, each as colorless and heavy as the one before, each weighed down by an unbearable heaviness of being. It was in this state of desolation that Sophia found herself drawn to the idea of the ritual. The notion did not come to her in a moment of epiphany, but rather seeped into her consciousness like a persistent fog, its origins as mysterious as the ritual itself. Rumors of an occultist who could navigate the murky waters of the human soul had reached her, whispers of his abilities to confront the shadows that lurk within and provide a semblance of peace to those brave or desperate enough to seek his services. Skepticism battled with despair in Sophia's mind. She had no affinity for the occult or the unseen forces that some claimed governed the fate of mortals. Yet, what did she have to lose? Her skepticism. Her disbelief. They seemed like meager possessions when stacked against the weight of her grief. And so, driven by a force she neither understood nor could resist, Sophia made her decision. She would meet this occultist, this man shrouded in mystery and rumor, and she would hire him to perform the ritual. In the depths of her soul, a flicker of hope ignited, casting a feeble light on the darkness of her grief. Perhaps this was the path to the peace she so desperately sought, or perhaps it was merely the last flicker of a candle before the eternal night. Either way, Sophia was ready to step into the unknown, to cross the threshold of the secluded house in the Welsh countryside, where the ritual that promised to unveil the mysteries of her heart awaited. This is the story of that ritual, of the darkness and the light it revealed, of the line between forgiveness and the abyss it uncovers. It is a tale not of ghosts or haunted houses, but of the haunting nature of grief and the lengths to which we go to find solace, to find closure, to find peace. It is a journey into the heart of darkness, not the darkness of the world beyond, but the darkness that resides within us all. Sophia's decision to embark on a journey that veered so sharply from the realm of the logical to the enigmatic was not made lightly. The days leading up to her conclusive choice were marred by a relentless internal debate, a tug-of-war between her ingrained skepticism and the raw, unyielding pain of loss that refused to be soothed by time or reason. The world, once a stage for the predictable ebb and flow of daily life, had transformed into a landscape of reminders of what had been irrevocably lost. In the solitude of her grief, Sophia found herself tracing the contours of her despair, seeking an escape, a release, that seemed as elusive as the last rays of the sun sinking behind the Welsh hills. It was during one such evening, as twilight bled into the fabric of the night, that she stumbled upon the whisperings of the occultist. An acquaintance, aware of Sophia's sorrow, had hesitantly mentioned a man of peculiar talents, a figure both revered and shrouded in the kind of mystery that bordered on the mythical. This man, known only by a name that seemed to echo the ancient and the arcane, was said to possess the knowledge and ability to navigate the shadowy realms of the soul. His methods, unbound by the strictures of conventional wisdom, promised a form of solace that seemed almost too potent, too alluring for someone drowning in grief. Sophia's initial reaction was one of disbelief, a scoff at the idea that such methods could offer anything more than a momentary distraction from her pain. Yet, as the night deepened and the silence around her grew more oppressive, the seed of curiosity planted by that conversation began to germinate. What if, in the vast unknown of the world, there existed paths to healing that defied explanation? What if this occultist could offer a bridge over the chasm of her sorrow? The questions multiplied, each echoing the deepest desires of her fractured heart. It was a convergence of desperation and the faintest glimmer of hope that finally tilted the scales. Sophia made her decision. She would seek out this occultist, this stranger who claimed to hold the keys to realms beyond the grasp of her pain. With a resolve that felt both foreign and empowering, she reached out, setting the wheels in motion for a meeting that she both anticipated and feared. The process was surprisingly mundane, a stark contrast to the extraordinary nature of what she was seeking. A time was set, a location given, and just like that, Sophia found herself on the threshold of a journey that promised to either unveil the peace she sought or plunge her deeper into the abyss of her despair. As she prepared to leave for the secluded house in the Welsh countryside, the site of the ritual, Sophia felt the weight of her decision. It was a weight born not just of fear and uncertainty, but of a silent acknowledgement of the magnitude of her grief. She was stepping beyond the boundaries of the known, driven by the most human of desires. The need to find peace, to understand, to heal. In this decision, Sophia found not just the courage to face the unknown, but a fragile thread of hope that, perhaps, in the depths of the ritual, she would find a way back to herself. The journey to the secluded house in the heart of the Welsh countryside was marked by an oppressive silence, a quiet so profound it seemed to echo Sophia's tumultuous thoughts. As she navigated the winding roads that led further away from the semblance of civilization, the reality of her decision began to weigh heavily upon her. The landscape outside mirrored the storm within, a tempest of doubts and fears, interspersed with fleeting moments of desperate hope. Upon arrival, the house presented itself as an entity caught out of time, its stoic structure bearing the weight of untold stories. It was here, amidst a sprawling solitude, that Sophia met the occultist for the first time. He was nothing like she had imagined. There was an air of solemnity about him, a gravitas that seemed both daunting and reassuring. He introduced himself with a nod, his eyes reflecting a depth that spoke of his unique acquaintance with the unseen aspects of existence. The preparation for the ritual began immediately. The occultist led Sophia through the house, explaining the significance of each space and the role it would play in the coming days. The ritual, he explained, was not merely a series of actions, but a journey that demanded both physical and spiritual preparation. They spent the remainder of the day and the better part of the evening setting up the designated area for the ritual, a room that stood bare, save for the essential elements that would facilitate their journey into the depths of Sophia's grief. The occultist instructed Sophia on the importance of mental fortitude, emphasizing that the ritual would test her in ways she could not yet comprehend. He spoke of the necessity of purging the mind of expectations, to enter the ritual with a heart open to receiving whatever truths it might unveil. Together, they engaged in a series of meditative exercises designed to anchor Sophia in the present and prepare her for the emotional and psychological rigors of the ritual. As night fell, the house seemed to settle into a deeper silence, as if it too was bracing for the ordeal to come. The occultist prepared a concoction of herbs, the aroma of which filled the room with a scent that was both earthy and ethereal. He explained that the drink was meant to cleanse the body, to ready it as a vessel for the journey ahead. Sophia consumed the bitter brew, the taste lingering on her tongue, as a tangible reminder of the irrevocable step she was about to take. The final preparation involved the creation of a symbolic representation of Sophia's loss. Using objects that she had brought with her, items that held personal significance, they constructed a focal point for the ritual. This, the occultist explained, would serve as a beacon, guiding their journey through the murky waters of grief and memory. As the preparation phase drew to a close, Sophia felt an amalgam of emotions swirling within her. Fear, doubt, and anticipation mingled in equal measure, each vying for dominance. Yet, beneath it all lay a thread of resolve, a determination to face whatever the ritual might bring. She understood, with a clarity that pierced the fog of her grief, that this was the beginning of a journey that could not be undone. With the house shrouded in the silence of anticipation, Sophia and the occultist settled into a restless sleep, the dawn of the ritual looming over them like a promise yet to be fulfilled. As dawn broke over the secluded house, casting its first light on the dew-soaked countryside, the ritual was set to begin. The air within the house held a charged expectancy, as if it too was aware of the gravity of the day. Sophia, having spent a restless night wrestling with doubts and fears, rose to greet the occultist. He met her with a nod, his demeanor calm yet inscrutable, offering no hint of what the day would hold. The room prepared for the ritual had transformed overnight. The objects and symbols that had seemed mere decorations the day before now took on a profound significance. The focal point of the room, the symbolic representation of Sophia's loss, stood at its heart, surrounded by candles whose flames flickered as if in anticipation. The occultist began with a solemn invocation, words spoken in a language that Sophia did not understand, but felt deep within her bones. The cadence of his voice, rhythmic and hypnotic, seemed to draw the room into a different state of being, one that transcended the physical confines of the space. Sophia was instructed to sit opposite the focal point, to fix her gaze upon it, and to empty her mind of all but her intention for the ritual. The initial stages were deceptively simple, involving breathing exercises and guided visualizations, designed to open her mind and spirit to the journey ahead. Sophia found herself slipping into a state of heightened awareness, where the boundaries between the physical and the mental began to blur. As the ritual progressed, the occultist introduced more complex elements. He guided Sophia through a series of physical postures and movements, each accompanied by chants and incantations. The physical exertion was unlike anything Sophia had expected, pushing her to the limits of her endurance. Yet, with each passing moment, she felt a layer of her grief being peeled away, revealing raw, unfiltered emotions beneath. The room seemed to shrink and expand with the rhythm of the ritual, the walls pulsing with a life of their own. Time lost its linear progression, folding in upon itself until Sophia could no longer distinguish between moments. She was adrift in a sea of sensations, each wave crashing over her with the force of her accumulated sorrow and pain. Midway through the ritual, the occultist paused. He locked eyes with Sophia, his gaze piercing through the veil of her defenses. In a voice that seemed to come from a great distance, he asked her to vocalize her loss, to give voice to the pain that had led her to this moment. Sophia's response was a whisper at first, a tentative articulation of her deepest fears and regrets. But as she spoke, her voice grew stronger, fueled by the cathartic release of emotions long suppressed. The ritual demanded more of Sophia than mere physical endurance. It required her to confront the darkest corners of her soul, to face the guilt, the anger, the despair that her loss had engendered. With each confession, each admission of her deepest feelings, the atmosphere in the room grew heavier, charged with the raw energy of her unveiled grief. As the day waned, the occultist brought the ritual to its next phase, a series of silent meditations that offered no respite from the emotional onslaught. Sophia, drained yet strangely invigorated, found herself on the threshold of something profound, a precipice that promised either salvation or damnation. The ritual had begun as a series of structured actions and invocations, but it had evolved into a journey that transcended the physical. Sophia and the occultist, bound by the shared experience of the ritual, stood at the cusp of an unknown that was both terrifying and alluring. As the first day drew to a close, Sophia realized that this was but the beginning of a journey that would test the very fabric of her being. As the ritual progressed into its subsequent days, the intensity of the experience began to escalate beyond anything Sophia had anticipated. Each day peeled back another layer of her psyche, exposing her to a rawness of emotion that was both purifying and overwhelming. The occultist, ever the enigmatic guide, pushed her boundaries, delving deeper into the recesses of her grief and despair. The physical demands of the ritual grew more challenging, each task designed to break down the walls she had built around her heart. These were not just exercises of endurance but acts of surrender, forcing Sophia to relinquish control and face the tempest of her emotions head-on. The room, once a mere backdrop to their activities, now felt like a living entity, its atmosphere thick with the energy of their endeavors. With each passing moment, the distinction between the ritual and reality began to blur. The candlelight that flickered in the darkness became beacons in a landscape of shadows, each flame a testament to the intensity of Sophia's inner journey. The symbols and objects arrayed around the room seemed to pulse with an unseen force, echoing the tumult within her. The occultist's invocations grew more fervent, his voice a constant presence that guided Sophia through the darkness. There were moments when Sophia felt as though she was teetering on the edge of an abyss, her soul stretched taut between the pain of her past and the promise of release. It was in these moments that the occultist's true skill became evident. He navigated these treacherous waters with a steadiness that provided Sophia with the anchor she desperately needed. As the ritual demanded more of her, Sophia found herself confronting not just the loss that had brought her to this secluded house, but the entirety of her life's sorrows. Each memory, each regret, was laid bare, examined under the unforgiving light of the ritual. It was a process that was at once cathartic and excruciating, a purging of emotional toxins that left her feeling both emptied and inexplicably filled. The nights were the hardest. Deprived of the occultist's guiding voice, Sophia was left alone with her thoughts, the silence of the house, a stark contrast to the turmoil within her. The darkness seemed to press in on her, laden with the echoes of her confessions and the weight of her unresolved grief. Sleep, when it came, offered little respite, her dreams a continuation of the day's emotional labor. On the penultimate night of the ritual, the intensity reached its zenith. The occultist introduced a final series of exercises, each more demanding than the last. These were not just physical challenges but symbolic acts, each representing a step towards confronting and accepting her loss. Sophia moved through them as if in a trance, her every action imbued with the pain and hope that had become the twin pillars of her existence. It was then that the occultist asked Sophia to perform a task that seemed insurmountable. He placed before her an object that symbolized the heart of her grief, its presence in the room, a tangible reminder of all she had lost. With hands that trembled with the weight of her emotions, Sophia was instructed to engage with it, to pour into it the entirety of her pain, her love, her regret. The task broke through the last of her defenses, unleashing a flood of emotions that Sophia had long suppressed. Tears flowed freely, each drop a testament to the depth of her sorrow and the strength of her will. It was a moment of profound vulnerability and power, a catharsis that seemed to shake the very foundations of the house. As the ritual neared its close, the lines between the physical and the spiritual, the real and the unreal, seemed to dissolve entirely. Sophia, transformed by the ordeal, stood on the precipice of understanding, her heart laid bare by the ritual's relentless demand for truth. The occultist, watching over her, knew that the final phase of their journey had only just begun. With the dawn, they would face the culmination of their efforts, a moment that promised either salvation or the unveiling of deeper truths, the consequences of which were as yet unknown. The night of reckoning arrived with a palpable tension that seemed to suffuse the air within the secluded house, enveloping both Sophia and the occultist in an anticipatory silence. The ritual, now in its final stages, had brought them to the threshold of a moment both had sensed, but neither could fully predict. The air was thick with the weight of unspoken expectations, the room illuminated by the soft glow of candles, casting long shadows against the walls, as if bearing witness to the culmination of their journey. The occultist began the night with a solemnity that underscored the gravity of the occasion. He gathered the symbols and artifacts that had become integral to their ritual, arranging them with meticulous care around the focal point of the room. This was not merely a continuation of the ritual but its apex, a convergence of all the energy, emotion, and transformation that had transpired over the past days. Sophia, for her part, felt a convergence of emotions swirling within her. The exhaustion that had been her constant companion was now tinged with a sense of impending closure, a hope that the night might finally bring an end to the relentless cycle of grief that had claimed her life. Yet, there was also fear, the fear of facing the ultimate truths of her journey, the fear of what might lie beyond the ritual's conclusion. The occultist instructed Sophia to sit in the center of the room, surrounded by the array of symbolic items that traced the arc of their shared endeavor. He then began a series of incantations, his voice rising and falling in a rhythm that seemed to echo the very heartbeat of the earth. The atmosphere within the room grew charged, the air vibrating with an unseen energy that seemed to draw Sophia deeper into a state of heightened awareness. As the incantations continued, the occultist guided Sophia through a visualization that required her to confront the essence of her loss. She was to envision the person she had lost, to speak to them of her pain, her love, her regret, and her longing for forgiveness. The exercise, deeply personal and emotionally taxing, forced Sophia to confront the full spectrum of her feelings, to acknowledge the depth of her sorrow and the complexity of her desire for closure. The room seemed to stand still, time suspended as Sophia looked into the mirror. The experience was transformative, a moment of profound clarity and release. She saw the faces of her love and her loss, the pain of the past, and the potential for forgiveness, not just of others but of herself. Tears streamed down her face, not just of sorrow but of understanding, of acceptance. As the ritual concluded, the occultist ceased his incantations, allowing the room to settle into a silence that was both profound and healing. The intensity of the night's proceedings left an indelible mark on Sophia, a sense of having traversed the deepest valleys of her soul and emerged, if not unscathed, then certainly transformed. The night of reckoning had lived up to its promise, not by providing simple answers or eradicating the pain of loss, but by guiding Sophia through the darkness to find her own path towards light and forgiveness. It was a realization that the journey of grief was not one to be completed but to be understood, a process not of forgetting, but of integrating loss into the tapestry of life. As the first light of dawn began to seep through the curtains, casting a soft glow on the remnants of the ritual, Sophia and the occultist shared a moment of silent acknowledgement. They had ventured into the unknown together, and though the path ahead remained uncertain, the night of reckoning had unveiled truths that would forever alter the course of Sophia's journey. In the aftermath of the night of reckoning, as the first tendrils of dawn crept across the sky, painting the Welsh countryside with strokes of gold and crimson, Sophia felt an unfamiliar sense of peace. The intense emotional journey of the ritual had left her exhausted, yet beneath the weariness, there was a semblance of relief, as if a heavy burden had been lifted from her shoulders. However, the true nature of the ritual's outcome was yet to reveal itself, and with it, the unforeseen consequences that would challenge the very foundation of Sophia's newfound peace. As the days began to pass, Sophia noticed subtle shifts in her reality. The world around her seemed sharper, the colors more vivid, and the sounds more resonant, as if her senses had been heightened by the ritual. Initially, these changes were welcome, a sign that the ritual had indeed wrought some positive effect on her. Yet, as time went on, Sophia began to experience phenomena that she could not easily explain. Objects in her home began to move inexplicably, disappearing from one place and reappearing in another. Shadows danced at the corners of her vision, fleeting and insubstantial, yet undeniably present. The air would occasionally grow thick, charged with an energy that made the hairs on the back of her neck stand on end. Sophia found herself caught between denial and acceptance, unable to fully comprehend the nature of these occurrences. The most disconcerting change, however, was in Sophia herself. She began to experience emotions with an intensity that was overwhelming, joy and sorrow mingling in a tumultuous sea within her heart. Memories of her lost love would surface with a vividness that was almost tangible, accompanied by a profound sense of presence, as if the barrier between the past and the present had been thinned. Sophia reached out to the occultist, seeking answers and guidance. He listened to her experiences with a solemn attentiveness, his expression unreadable. When she had finished, he spoke of the delicate balance between the realms of the living and the unseen, and how the ritual had opened a doorway within Sophia's soul, allowing her to perceive and interact with the world in ways she had not previously imagined. The occultist warned that the ritual had not only sought to heal but to reveal, to uncover the layers of reality that are usually hidden from human eyes. The phenomena Sophia was experiencing were a direct consequence of this unveiling, a reminder that the ritual's effects were far-reaching and not entirely within the realm of control. Sophia was faced with a choice: to seek a way to close the door that had been opened, or to learn to live with a new reality that had been revealed to her. The occultist offered guidance, but he made it clear that the path forward was hers to choose. The journey of healing and understanding she had embarked upon was far from over, it had merely entered a new phase. The unforeseen consequences of the ritual had blurred the lines between the world of the living and the unseen, challenging Sophia's perceptions of reality and forcing her to confront the true complexity of her grief and loss. In this new reality, forgiveness was not just an act of letting go, but a process of integration, of learning to exist in a world where love and loss, presence and absence, were not binaries, but part of a greater, more intricate tapestry of human experience. As Sophia contemplated her next steps, she realized that the ritual had indeed unveiled truths she had never expected to find, truths that were both beautiful and terrifying. The path ahead was uncertain, but for the first time since her loss, Sophia felt equipped to navigate it, not alone, but with a newfound understanding of the depth and breadth of the human soul. In the days that followed the ritual and the onset of its unforeseen consequences, Sophia found herself navigating a world that was fundamentally altered. The once familiar contours of her life had shifted, revealing new dimensions of reality that were both intriguing and disconcerting. The phenomena that had initially seemed like mere post-ritual aberrations persisted, serving as constant reminders of the invisible threshold she had crossed. Yet, it was not just the external oddities that marked the aftermath of the ritual, it was the internal transformation within Sophia that proved to be the most profound and challenging consequence. Sophia's perception of her grief and loss had undergone a seismic shift. Where there had once been an unbridgeable chasm of sorrow, there now existed a complex landscape of memory, emotion, and spiritual insight. She found herself able to recall moments with her lost love with a clarity and depth that was both comforting and overwhelming. These memories, once sources of acute pain, had become bittersweet touchstones that connected her to a sense of love and presence that transcended physical absence. However, this newfound closeness came with its own set of challenges. Sophia struggled to find balance between the rich inner world that the ritual had unlocked and the demands of her everyday life. The boundaries between the past and the present, the spiritual and the material, had become permeable, leaving Sophia to navigate the complexities of a reality that was enriched yet complicated by her enhanced perceptions. The advice of the occultist echoed in her mind, a beacon as she ventured into this uncharted territory. He had spoken of the importance of integration, of learning to weave the insights and experiences the ritual had provided into the fabric of her life. It was a task easier said than done, requiring patience, courage, and a willingness to embrace the ambiguity and mystery that now characterized her existence. Sophia sought solace in nature, finding the rhythms of the earth a grounding force amidst the tumult of her internal world. The Welsh countryside, with its rolling hills and ancient woodlands, offered a sense of continuity and connection that was deeply healing. She took to wandering the landscapes, allowing the beauty of the natural world to soothe her spirit and provide a counterpoint to the intensity of her emotional and spiritual journey. As the weeks turned into months, Sophia began to notice a subtle shift in her relationship with the phenomena that had so unsettled her in the aftermath of the ritual. The moving objects, the shadows at the edge of her vision, the charged atmosphere that occasionally filled her home, these occurrences, once sources of anxiety, had become part of the tapestry of her new reality. She learned to observe them with a curiosity that replaced her initial fear, recognizing them as manifestations of the deeper connection to the world around her that the ritual had facilitated. The most significant transformation, however, was in Sophia's approach to her grief. The ritual had not erased her loss, nor had it provided a magical solution to the pain of bereavement. Instead, it had offered her a new lens through which to view her experience, one that encompassed both the pain of loss and the enduring presence of love. Sophia came to understand that grief was not a linear journey to be completed, but a spiral path, one that could bring her closer to the essence of the love she had lost, even as it challenged her to grow and adapt in its wake. In this new phase of her life, Sophia found a purpose that transcended her initial quest for closure. She became a student of the unseen, exploring the intersections of grief, love, and spiritual insight, with a humility and openness that drew others to her. As the seasons turned, painting the Welsh countryside in the ephemeral hues of time's passage, Sophia found herself standing at the crest of a hill overlooking the secluded house where the ritual had taken place. The journey that had begun in the depths of grief and desperation had led her to this moment, a point of reflection and newfound understanding. The house, once a symbol of her quest for peace and closure, now stood as a testament to the transformative power of her experiences. Sophia's gaze swept over the landscape, taking in the beauty and serenity that surrounded her. The ritual, with its unforeseen consequences, had not only altered her perception of the world, but it also reshaped her place within it. She had ventured into the unknown, guided by the occultist's wisdom, and emerged with a profound connection to the unseen forces that weave the tapestry of life. The phenomena that had once unsettled her had become familiar, a part of the expanded reality she now inhabited. Sophia had learned to live with the mystery, embracing the complexity of her experiences with a grace and openness that had eluded her before. The memories of her lost love, once sources of unrelenting pain, had been transformed into a wellspring of strength and inspiration, fueling her journey into the realms of the spiritual and the transcendent. In the time since the ritual, Sophia had become a beacon for others navigating the treacherous waters of grief and loss. Her story, marked by courage, transformation, and the search for understanding, offered a ray of hope to those struggling to find their way through the darkness. She had learned that healing was not about forgetting or moving on in the traditional sense, but about integrating loss into the fabric of one's life, finding ways to honor the love that remains. As she stood there, reflecting on the path she had traveled, Sophia realized that the ritual had unveiled far more than she had anticipated. It had opened her eyes to the intricate dance of light and shadow that defines the human experience, revealing the beauty and resilience that reside within the heart's capacity to love, to grieve, and to grow. The occultist, though no longer a constant presence in her life, had left an indelible mark on her journey. His teachings, once enigmatic and challenging, had become foundational pillars upon which Sophia built her understanding of the world. He had shown her that the veil between the seen and the unseen is thin, that the spirits of those we love never truly leave us, and that in the heart's deepest chambers, there are truths waiting to be discovered. Sophia turned away from the view, her heart filled with a sense of peace and purpose. The epilogue of her story was not an ending, but a gateway to new beginnings, a continuation of a journey that was both uniquely hers and universally shared. She had found a way to weave the threads of her loss into a tapestry of meaning and connection, transforming the narrative of her life into a story of resilience, discovery, and love that transcends the boundaries of existence. As she made her way back down the hill, Sophia carried with her the lessons of the ritual. The knowledge that in every ending, there is a beginning, and in every loss, there is the potential for transformation and renewal. The journey would continue, with its trials and triumphs, its moments of darkness and light. But Sophia moved forward with the confidence of one who had faced the abyss and found within it the stars.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the video. We highly recommend you watch the next video here. Oops. I'm waiting for you to click. Yes, you've clicked. Happy watching.